Last time we're going to start with a question that has been decided on by the returning officer, and this will be student safety and health on campus. What do candidates think are the biggest problems, and what are they planning to do to tackle them? And we will start, from this end and head on. So, Molly.
Hi guys, I'm Molly and I'll be running for your Wellbeing. So health and safety on campus. One of my big points is the return bus after the nights out at the O2. This would probably start off on May nights out, kind of a bit of a pilot study. This is really to improve everybody's safety after a night out. People get in taxis, or some people might even walk home, and I think it's really important that people have that safe option back after a night out. You can prepay for your ticket, so people don't need to worry about that. In regards to health, you've obviously got mental health and physical health. Mental health would be making sure that everybody's voices are heard, and if you've got a problem, you know exactly where you need to go to get the help that the uni already provides for you. And then physical health, I'm wanting to introduce healthy cookery classes that are free for everybody. First years coming from home might not have been taught how to cook, so that's a great opportunity for them to learn. People that are in catered accommodation in first year might want to learn in second and third year how to cook really healthy foods on a student budget.
Hi, I'm Andrew, and what I would do is I am also currently elected Disabled Students Officer, so I come at this from a slightly disability point of view. So one thing would be to do a bit of an audit of not only the Students' Union but the university as a whole and look at the accessibility of it. Like, there's been occasions this semester when the door to the union, the automatic door, hasn't been working. So those who have to get in by that entrance or choose to get in by that entrance wouldn't be able to and have to go all the way round to the entrance where Santander is. So I'd complete an audit, look at how we actually use the buildings and make it equal access. I also plan on trying to work with whoever's elected with activities to work on reforming the run booking, so you haven't got to think, have we definitely got this run this week, or has it ended up being double booked with another society. I also want to ensure that everyone knows, not only those on campus but distance learners and mature students, that the awareness of what is available to look after them in terms of their mental well-being and stuff is frequently passed around, that it's not just something maybe dished out in the first lecture of the year, you take it, you put it in your bag and you forget about it. And it also makes personal tutors a bit more aware of that people need to be able to contact them, and that they need to know the direction as well to send people if they've got a query about someone who's maybe come to them first because they feel a bit more of an attachment to them, or they don't know where else to turn.
Okay, hi. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Georgina. And like Molly, one of my main policies focuses around the O2 nights out. And I want to work with the newly established Drink Aware crew and have a designated safe space area in the O2, either sort of just inside or just outside of the doors, where people who are feeling unsafe on a night out, whether this be through a form of sexual harassment, whether they've had a bit too much to drink, whether they're feeling unwell, whether they've lost their friends and they're feeling a bit alone, where they can go in order to feel safe. This will be a supervised area, and this just gives them that bit more safety. They can talk to people there. There will be people there to help them. In terms of general health, obviously, like Molly said, you can split this into mental and physical health. And I want to introduce wellbeing workshops for all students, not just those with health problems, to help reduce overall stress. Because as those of you who do psychology will know, like, high stress levels can not only affect your general well-being, but can also affect your mental and your physical health. So this would help encompass all three and help to reduce these stress levels and ultimately improve health. And furthermore, I would like to have a quiet relaxation zone in the union to also encompass this, it will allow for the reduction of stress levels, and basically it's just a quiet area people can go and sit, not like a silent area almost, you know, comfy chairs, just to go and chill and relax and reduce stress levels. Again, stress levels can have a very severe impact on both types of physical and mental health.
Hiya, I'm Beth. So for me, health and safety sort of encompasses three main things. So you've got your mental health, sexual health, and then sort of like drink-related health. Well, that's more the safety side of it. But so yeah, like Georgina said, it's really important to have a safe space, sort of on nights out where people can go if they need it. With the mental health side of things and the sexual health, I'd quite like to see programs implemented up in OB, just so the freshers have somewhere closer to go. So sort of like a C card up there, so it's a bit easier for them to access. And yeah.
Hello everybody, I'm James. Is this on? Can you hear me? Good. Basically, I have three policies that I'm aiming at. Mental health, and nights out. I want to introduce like a scheme like taxis, but like you fix the taxi scheme. So it's a fixed price, basically from OB to Leicester to the campus and back again. So basically you're paying a fixed price for this scheme. This will then reduce the union's cost of hiring the bus, because hiring a bus can be very expensive, because when you've hired the bus, you've got to pay for the driver, you've got to pay for the maintenance of that bus, and you've got to pay for MOTs, road tax and everything else, and you've got to pay for fuel as well. In terms of mental health, I would also like to introduce a course rep scheme to basically look at mental health on campus, so that you have somebody on your course that you can fundamentally go to if you've got a problem that's trained, that has knowledge of signposting, that can also signpost people. Also with Nightline, I'd also like to introduce a text and mate scheme. So if you're worried about somebody in the night time in your house or in your accommodation, you can find out advice for them and support them throughout the night, so you can support them until the morning, until better help can be resourced. Also with disability, I would also like to remind Andrew that mental health is included under the Disability Equalities Act 2010, so separating the two can be very dangerous, because the line between mental health and disability is very, very limited. But also that many people do not come to university with the priority of disability. They come for education purposes.
Would you like to respond to that, Andrew? No, that's fine. Based on that, we will then open out to questions from the audience. Does anyone have any questions for the Wellbeing candidates?
First of all of your statements were really good. I just wondering, I'm Women's Officer this year, and I'm wondering what you would do to combat sexual harassment next year.
I think we'll go back down the other way this time. So, James?
Basically, for sexual harassment, I have a scheme in place to increase training for sexual crimes, so that people are aware of these crimes, because they are rising upon campus and in the university accommodation blocks. In university accommodation blocks, I'll deal with that one quickly first. I would increase security on university accommodations, because this has been very successful in Falmouth University and Exeter University. Basically, they have invisible officers that patrol the campus. They make sure that people are safe at all times. They make sure that, but they're not visible, so that you can see them. Also, by increasing training of these crimes, using the Wellbeing course reps and staff with extra training, have specialist staff within each department. They will be able to and you have nighttime staff as well in the library. They will be able to identify sexual crimes. You'll be able to go to these people rather than just going to security, and they'll be able to deal with you quickly and get the right support if this includes police or anything else.
Carrying on from sort of the halls base. So in my first year, I very rarely saw my RAs. Didn't really know how to contact them. I think sort of having them around a bit more people around sort of during the evenings would be really good, sort of getting them a bit more training. Having sort of workshops at the start of the year for, say, all the freshers, so say one for each course or one for each halls, sort of talking about sort of women's health and their safety. And then with the sort of drinking, so obviously a lot of issues surrounding sort of women's safety comes from drinking. So again, just having sort of a safe space in case there are any issues, developing upon the drink crew that are starting to be implemented within the O2, So we keep that going a bit, trying to get more volunteers in.
Yeah, so building on what Beth just said about the O2 safe space, that could be really, really beneficial in combating sexual harassment, particularly on O2 nights out, because if people are feeling a bit unsafe or if they're being sexually harassed, they've got somewhere they can go with people they can talk to, and sort of they can then get out of that situation and avoid that situation. And that will have really helped combat that on nights out, because I'm sure not just women as well, like obviously whilst a minority of cases it can happen to men as well, it gives people somewhere to go to feel safer. And because I'm sure pretty much all, especially all the girls in here, you've been to the O2 on a night out and you've been followed around by that one guy who just won't take no for an answer, and it can be very, very intimidating. It is a very, very serious issue. Again, building on the idea of halls, definitely have either more RAs or the RAs around a bit more to sort of police the area almost, especially probably increase the lighting as well, because I noticed in my halls, I was in Bowder Court in my first year, so sort of GMS, and certain areas of that, especially sort of on the walk between Bowder Court and Lasden, I don't know if you all know roughly sort of what that path is like, but that is very, very dark, and especially as a girl walking down there, if you ever had to walk down there on your own, it's very intimidating, very, very scary.
The thing we also, I think, is we can't just think, it isn't just first years that are targeted, it is any years, and one key thing is to improve lighting, but as well as improving lighting, it needs to be an improved physical as well as invisible as well as visible presence for maybe someone who's trained, maybe a bit like the drinkware crew, where it's someone who knows what they're doing, someone you can turn to, as well as increased maybe cameras which are just placed in opportune moments that maybe around the darkest spots, that people know that if they follow a particular route back, they're being watched, that if someone tries something, there's a chance that the culprit involved will be seen. I know that some of the halls don't have particularly good lighting, that the lighting definitely could be improved, and yes, RAs could do with the training and being made aware that sometimes they need to show a bit more of a presence, that it needs to be more standardised, that the job of RA isn't just how you interpret it, sometimes people do need you, rather than thinking, oh, I'll just knock on the door, oh, it doesn't appear anyone's in. It may be that, yes, they're not in, but then they may not be in. They may be in, but not willing to talk. And sometimes it may be you have to talk to the people around them to find out if they've got a problem or if they've been involved in an incident, but they may be too frightened to talk about it.
I know that societies on campus, such as Sexpression and things, have already been in conversation with Harriet about getting some kind of sexual awareness workshops going, as previous candidates have mentioned. Edinburgh have a really great policy called No One Asks For It, and this is kind of where their union go and they run workshops and classes for societies, and that really helps them out. This raises awareness of consent and then that kind of issue with big societies on campus. It gives people the opportunity to train people up, so if someone does have a problem, they can go and they can talk to them about it. These guys have highly talked about RAs, and I think that's important too, making them more approachable, but also knowing that there's other services on campus that people can go to and talk to them. So I know the university did a survey recently, and one of the big things came out of it was that people that have had sexual assault don't feel like they can talk about it, or they don't come forward and tell people that it's happened to them. So that would be a really big thing to try and get people talking about it, and not feel like it's a negative thing and a bad thing and that they should feel ashamed of it. If they want to talk about it, there's somebody there that will listen and take them seriously. I think that's really important.
Thank you. Now, The lady over there, I believe, does have a question, so if we can go to the next one. I think we've got a microphone, so just for our distance learning students who are lost in the don't worry.
With all due respect, you guys talked about sexual harassment being a nighttime thing and being in the dark, but most of it happens in the day or with someone you trust. How are you going to put policies to implement preventing it happening in the future?
So like I was saying about the whole talking about it before, I think it's really important that everybody acknowledges that this does happen, especially at university. So talking about it a lot more, creating an open environment where people feel they can talk about it, not necessarily just at night, but during the day as well, having people that they can talk to. I think that encourages people, and then it kind of breaks down the barriers that people do feel like it only happens at night. People more talking about it, they know that it happens in different environments, and then they're not so scared about coming forward if it did happen to them during the day.
As I sort of mentioned earlier, I mentioned the idea of making a bit more of an invisible presence, of maybe a couple more cameras around campus in spots where it's maybe a bit more out of general view of someone walking by, that if something did happen, it could be seen. The whole thing is, yes, it can be reduced, but it's never going to be possible to completely prevent something, because there's always going to be one person who thinks, or it's in their sort of partly human nature that, oh, I think I can get away with it, I'll judge you. But it's not saying it's right. We've got to try something, and it may be an idea of having to trial several different things and seeing which one works the best, or if several work the best, implementing them to coincide with each other to attempt to reduce it, so that it isn't just one scheme running at a time, it's several pilots running, and then from the pilots you work out what works, what doesn't work, and hope that the scheme that you produce that has worked already will carry on working.
Okay, so obviously the point you've made is really, really valid and very, very good point. The point I made previously about the RAs, that doesn't necessarily need to be a nighttime thing. RA presence can be increased at all times of the day. And also for, obviously, campus, a higher amount of campus security, as Andrew said, more CCTV around the area. And also, it brings me to one of the main policies on my manifesto as well. I want to introduce a welfare officer into the committee of each society. I know this is already done in Burlesque, and I know this has been mentioned in Union Council as a potential sort of thing that could be brought in, but this will give people, I'm sure most of you know, like societies, you're all like sort of one big family, you're all quite close, and this will give people that extra level of sort of comfort, that sort of, it's someone they know, there's someone they probably trust a little bit more, which may encourage them to come forward and actually talk to somebody about their experience. And if we talk about the experiences, then we can sort of go forward from there, find out exactly why, where they're happening, and use that to put through sort of more policies that can help that.
I don't really think that saying, oh, it's going to happen, we can't prevent it, is the best way to go about it. At the end of the day, it's a very serious issue, and it affects so many different people. So I think it all comes down to educating people about like the issue, raising awareness, sort of destigmatizing it as, oh, we shouldn't talk about it, because it's such a big issue, and everyone needs to be aware that it's not something that should happen, and we really should try and reduce how it does happen, like that it does happen, and just try and eradicate it from just society, like especially within the university. So yeah, just creating workshops, raising awareness of the issue, and just trying to destigmatize it and get people talking about it. It's like having a safe space for people who have experienced it to go to if they want to, just to talk and know that someone's going to be there.
As with a lot of mental health issues, what I want to try and do is introduce a committee to basically look at what these people would require. Because I've never experienced harassment, but I've experienced bullying, and we need to remember that this is not just exclusively a women's issue. You know, where it mainly happens to women, men can also be sexually abused and sexually assaulted as well. and men particularly don't feel very comfortable about talking to this. I would also like to introduce support groups on campus so that, you know, people can be supported, because a lot of this is done externally at the moment by the NHS, and where this can be very difficult because it means people have to physically leave the campus. I would like this to be done where friends, you can take a friend, you know, to a support group meeting. So you actually got somebody you know, you're aware of, and they know what's happened to you. So they're able to be a sort of an aid and comfort to you.
So we go for a final question before we go to someone up at the top there.
Yeah, hi. Quite a few of you, if not all of you, have got something on your manifestos about mitigating circumstances. And so I just want to know a little bit more, because personally I have to go through the mitigating circumstances process a lot. So I just want to know what you guys would want to do to reform this process and support those who need mitigating circumstances and who might even need to suspend.
Basically, first thing I want to do is make sure that it's within 24 hours. So you know what's going to happen to you in 24 hours. This is not unreasonable. You know, most landlords have to provide, you know, assurances for repairs in 24 hours. Most things have to happen within 24 hours. Taking a few days over decisions and sending it off to a panel that you've never met. You've never met this panel in your life. You don't know who the panel are, if they're in favour of your mitigating circumstances, or whatever. Also, I would like to introduce a point of contact inside the university. Each department would have a point of contact, so you can actually go through the mitigating circumstances form or the suspension form with them, so you can actually talk to somebody, because at the moment it seems to everything be by email. But also, I'd like to introduce a system that when you fill out this form, you do it once and once only per term. So you don't have to keep, you know, for every single essay, you don't have to keep filling out the form. But also, I'd like to introduce a tick box system for those that can't write and those that find it very difficult to write, and those that are very anxious about writing, you know, about writing all their circumstances down, so you can tick forms, they can be generalised rather than specific.
Yeah, following on from the turnaround time. So yeah, I've had a couple of friends. I haven't personally gone through it myself, but I've had a couple of friends who have, and it took so much time for them to hear back about it that they had to work to the original deadline, like under the assumption that they might not actually get it. So I think, yeah, getting the turnaround time a lot faster so people know if they will or will not be accepted with mitigating circumstances, so they don't have the extra pressure of will I, won't I, will I then be called as late for this piece of work when I realistically shouldn't be having to do it right now. Working with departments, I think, is key. So getting all the information in one place in every department, so people know what qualifies as mitigating circumstances, and they can go to one place and have all the information there. Sort of with the fit to sit, I think that needs a lot of work. So it'll be working sort of with the education officer, just to try and find sort of the ideal solution. I'm not going to lie, I don't know what that is at the moment, but it'll be something I'd be very eager to work towards.
Okay, so my first point on my manifesto is about the introduction of a mitigating circumstances portfolio. This goes towards sort of students like yourself, like you said, who have to go through the mitigating circumstances process on quite a regular basis. This would allow you to build up your evidence with your department over time. Obviously, the evidence that would be required by departments would be something that would have to be discussed if this policy were to go through. But this, if you go to the doctors for whatever reason or whatever your condition is, if for long-term situations, something that's not going to go away, so mental health problems, if you have mental health problems like anxiety and depression, it's going to be very, very hard for you to, every time you have a deadline, I mean, especially as psychology, you have quite a lot of deadlines, is sort of have to keep going back and getting exactly the same evidence every time. You may as well, with your department, build that up over time, and then save you having to keep going back to the doctors or keep going back to a therapist or whoever it is that you need to gain your evidence from. You can sort of submit a form to your department and say, you know my circumstances, you know my situation, you have my portfolio, you know this isn't a problem that's going to go away overnight, you know this isn't a short-term thing. So you can look at that, they can look at the evidence you've already submitted through this. This works for physical health as well as mental health as well. So if you have a long-term physical condition, you build up your evidence over time of exactly what this is. Like I've used the example when talking to people, sort of things like diabetes. If you're in an exam and you have a hypo in your exam, rather than having to go to the doctors to get a letter to say, yes, I have it, you can say, look, I've got diabetes. That's not something that's going to go away. So you've got that evidence already there. They've already got the evidence, and you can use that. Obviously, for more sort of short-term situations, that wouldn't work, but that draws me to the turnaround time that the other two have mentioned.
Could you please start to wrap up your answer? Thank
I
you.
say the turnaround time is far too long, and that definitely needs to be shortened so you know where you stand very quickly.
Well, the one thing I would suggest is trying to create like maybe a well-being section within Blackboard that, or within your department on Blackboard, that there is a folder called Wellbeing, and within that it contains your mitigating circumstances form, instructions on how to fill it in, as well as the idea of how you like upload things to Turnitin and stuff. You can upload documentation quite regularly and have it saved on a Blackboard file that when you need it, you would just re-download it and put it in, and you've got the bank of information ready. Because what I feel is you need to know clearly where it is, how it is to be filled in. If you're in a situation where you're needing to fill it in, you're already stressed about the situation as it is. You don't want to have to add to the stress of like, how do I fill this in? Do I know whether I'm putting the right information in? So the idea is maybe you put a sample mitigating circumstances form. You make up a fictional person, like they've got this and this, they put in, so you've got an example of what you put in each section. So if you're unsure, you can refer back to that. Once you've done it, hopefully that's it, it's fine. But the turnaround, yes, turnarounds need to be sorted. No one likes having to wait forever to know whether something has either been received or whether it's being looked at. So like, the idea is you want regular updates, like first update saying, yes, your mitigating circumstances request has been received, and then like another one saying, we're now looking into it and considering it. Just put your mind at rest, so your mind isn't worrying around with, did they definitely get it, are they looking at it, how long will it be until they look at it. So you can just switch off a bit more from the aspect of that.
To wrap up your answer, please.
And so that if it comes to it and you've got little time left, you can focus a bit more on what you do need to try and finish.
So I know it's something that Alex and Harriet have been working on. Your video got like 2,000 views or something crazy like that. So yeah, it's obviously something that students really want to know more about, and it's something that you'd have to, as an education officer, work with the wellbeing officer a lot more with, because it kind of combines the two roles. In relation to like turnover periods, I agree with all the previous candidates. It needs to be a lot sooner. Talking to the Ed unit, they were saying that when people come to them and they look at their application, they worry that they still have to work to their deadline, or should they submit half an essay? Is that better than not submitting an essay at all? And that's something that the Ed unit really struggle with in advising students. So getting that turnaround time would definitely help them out a lot more with that. And supporting the Ed unit so they know what they can advise students on and what they can't, building up evidence. They struggle with that. If you've got anxiety and things, you might not necessarily have the evidence that your department requires, so giving them new ideas on how you can gather that evidence that your department would require.
Thank you. Unfortunately, due to time constraints, you won't have time for any more questions for the wellbeing officers. We will just quickly have time for a short 30-second summary from each candidate, and unfortunately we will have to keep it to 30 seconds. So if you'd like to.
So throughout my 3 years here, I've volunteered as a nightline volunteer. So I've been hearing all the mental well-being and physical well-being, that people struggle with at university. So I'd really like to get in the wellbeing position and help make these changes that you guys really want to see within your union. So yeah, voting obviously opens tomorrow, as I'm sure a lot of you are aware. Please do vote and consider me. Thank you.
So this is my third and final year at this university. Over the 3 years, I have spent 3 years on the Union Council. First year was elected to the Union Council, got elected joint chair. Second year, got elected again. This year, I wasn't necessarily going to do it, but got elected Disabled Students Officer. So once again, I ended up on the Union Council. So I've 3 years on the Union Council. So for me, that gives me the experience of the inner workings, and I've seen proposals come and go, so I know what works and what doesn't work to help you not only with your well-being but other aspects relating to it.
Yeah, so I'm running for this position because I've had a lot of experience in the wellbeing services here at the university over my time, especially last year. And basically, I want to be your voice in the union and how you want your wellbeing services run. I want to know exactly what you want us to do. I want to be your link between the student body and the union services that are run. I want you to have more of a say in what services we offer because it's your union, it's run for you, and we're here to serve you and do what you want us to do.
Right, so over the past 5 years I've had experience working in disability support, so it's across a wide range of disabilities, so I've had sort of that experience. I've done work on mental and sexual health on a global level, so I've got a bit of understanding that I can sort of bring into Leicester. And it's so hard to maintain good mental, physical and financial well-being whilst working towards your degree. And over the past 3 years, I've struggled with all the three. I think I could use my experiences from them to assist others and work with others to get the most out of their university life.
Yeah, like the others, I have suffered extensively from mental health well-being from my time at university. And basically, it's not about me though at the end of the day, it's about you. It's in this room, I believe we have politicians, I believe we have medical students. You might not even remember me in 5 years' time, but what I do, you will remember. You will remember every single thing that I do if I get it wrong. So that's why I believe it's so important that we get it right, because it's about your future. Well, you have the potential to do anything you want in life. And it's about you. It's about every single one of the 23,000 students at this Leicester University. So it's putting every student first.
Thank you to the Wellbeing candidates. We will now move on to the debate for education. If you could please come down.